It's not here today, so I will just take that spot. So welcome everybody. But we're going to start off with Amy doing land acknowledgement. So I'll let you have the floor.
We begin this meeting by acknowledging the land in which we gather in traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the lands protected by the Dishwapan Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. And acknowledging this reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people.
Awesome, thank you. And then, do you have any declarations of special interest before we start? I highly doubt there is any. No? Awesome. First we'll need then is a move and second on the approval of the agenda for today. David and Jennifer, thank you. Next, I need a move and second on approval of minutes from June. So, we got Jennifer. We got a second on that. Amy. Before we move on from those, is there any errors or omissions on those minutes that anyone found? Or a topic that needs to be brought up from there that, no? Okay, we will move right on through. Financial update. I don't think there's really anything massive in there to go over. Do you want to move in a second on the actual financials as they stand, or can we leave that for next month?
Yeah,
because I don't really want to move in a second. There's really nothing there. So let's leave that one. I like this.
Oh, can I quickly, and apologies, Byron, jump in since it fits with financials a little bit, just to give everyone a bit of a heads up. We're looking to create a budget committee for next year, and Byron is kind of offered to chair. Thank you. So if anybody would like to be part of that committee, please let me know. Usually I present a draft budget to the board, but I think it's more beneficial to have input kind of from the get-go from board members and the community, like our members. So if anybody would like to be on that committee, please let me know.
It's really only.
Yeah, it's not much.
Not much. It's a shorter one. To be fairly straightforward. Events update. Sarah is not here. Can anyone else do the events update?
I can,
okay.
Unless somebody else wants to. So I can just share the most recent, or we had a block party July 14th, 50. It, other than rain, which was not so fun, went really well. We had really great coverage. The mayor was in attendance, the number of councillors were in attendance. We got a lot of positive feedback. We've done surveys so far with both our members and with the community. And the community survey, the last I checked, and I'm just seeing if I've got it open, but I don't think I have. We had over 2,000 surveys completed for the members of the public. Oh my, some maybe box we need to go through. But for the most part, everybody was very positive about it, which was lovely. Our sponsors are drooling over next year, if I can say that. So we're really excited to be able to make this grow and become something stronger. So we're excited.
Just a question about block party. I noticed I do not live in Pelham on Hill, Fenwick, but they have Summerfest every year, and that was the exact same days, which of course is a phenomenal. It's kind of like nowadays. It's amazing. Like everyone I know that attends has a wonderful time, and it is ramped. They have to shut everything down, the streets, everything. I'm just wondering. I of course have absolutely no idea if Summerfest happens on the exact same weekend every year, or if they rotate certain weekends. But I'm wondering if it might be worthwhile reaching out to the city of Pelham or the township. I don't know who really plans it, but we don't conflict with Summerfest when we do the next block party, because I really think that as wonderful as the block party was and the great turnout that we had, I think the turnout would be stronger if we weren't in competition, which is such a strong, long-standing event happening just down the street.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to address that. First of all, our sound is having issues. Might be a pain. Would you guys mind moving closer? Because that's the mic. And I don't think online Katie can hear you as well, just because you're a little further apart.
Thank you. I can hear. It's just some things are getting clipped for some reason.
I totally don't find either, but if you don't decide me, that's
Yeah, I'm so mad.
Thank you.
Thanks.
that's my talking.
Yeah, that is my right.
You guys are good for
Go from executing cameras.
That would be good. So just going back to your comment, Jen, so yes, that was identified in the survey. Somebody wrote not as nice terms as yours. And I will repeat it because it is not family friendly, that we should not have conflict. So it is always a challenge when planning events, of course. So we have our next events meeting and will actually be focused on next year's events. So we're going to basically be having everything on the table that is being discussed as their type of event, all the ones we've done this year, but then also the car show, Busker Festival, and how they might fit in and what times and days of the year. Because our ideal is to have those times and days booked more than a year in advance. So we have like a full calendar and program sheet that we can then put out to people as a whole for the year, as opposed to piecemeal it as we've had to done in the past. And so we definitely will be looking for any conflicting dates. So if anybody knows of other conflicting dates that we should be avoiding, please let us know.
Yeah, canal days.
Awesome.
I just have a quick question. When it comes to, do we know like projection of dates of when some of these buildings and the construction is a little bit less downtown? Like, is it 2 years? Is it a year? Is it?
To be honest with you, it's no. Is the easiest I can tell you. I mean, we know 88 James is just gone into demolition, so they will be starting to probably do more deeper demolition, and then do the build up. But it's hard to plan. I mean, that was supposed to start. I mean, I have promises after promises. The last promise I had was March. It literally started last month. So you can't plan based on those promises, because I find that they constantly get moved.
So would it be something to like do some key ones that are like grandfathered in, like maybe the block party and the grape and wine, and do more like attraction based, like CHH locks, or putting money towards that to kind of bring attention to like the merchants downtown versus like event based, because I mean it's crazy to park or get down here, but like make it look a little bit more accessible.
Yeah, and that's definitely would be part of the budget discussion overall, I think, is to where do we want to focus our budget? Do we want to focus on events? Do we want to focus on marketing? Do we want to focus on beautification? You know, that kind of stuff. And so that would probably be part of the overall budget conversation. I think though, having said that, based on the success of Block Party bringing in some sponsorships, the thing with Holy cost us nothing. We funded that completely through sponsorship.
Yeah.
So I think that allows us to do more. And I shouldn't say cost is nothing. There's still always an expense, right, of staff time and resources and so forth. So, but yeah, it's definitely a conversation.
Just on your comment, Amy, too, and I mean, this is probably more Dave, obviously Dave's wheelhouse. But definitely, just because we broached the subject last meeting, where permitting is becoming a significant hiccup for not only businesses that already are in a perfectly fine building already, not even people that are building something from scratch or going through the iterations of that, where I think too, like it's just, I mean, any of us that have been living in St. Catharines, or especially in the downtown for quite some time, just because someone has a permit to build doesn't mean they built anything. You know, like, I mean, we've seen people trumpet that they're building, like, look at the Bloom property on James Street, like, and they're fantastic. They let us use the property to help do things. But, you know, there was already supposed to be a finished building on that property.
It is for sale.
It is for sale.
Or it is, if
Yes.
anyone wants property
Yes.
downtown, there is a space for sale.
The Bloom property, right at the corner of St. Paul and James.
There's a few that are for sale that have signs too.
No, it's just an empty lot.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Or it's just, you know, it's almost impossible to land. You know, like,
Yeah,
we could think 10 buildings are going up in the next 3 years and 3 go up, and we're trying to make contingency
But
plans.
even if like we went out, like I'm finding like the street closures right now, like I know it comes up. And I found this morning, I was like, "Ugh, now I'm making a rate to get around," and I mean, all you can do it, it's just, I think that there is so much beauty that we're hiding because not everyone's going to these events, like because they're busy with their kids on the weekend, right? Like activities and stuff like that. So just even like I know we had a historic Milton, we do like Sage Shapes Lives, and was rated for a week. Did it die for a week? Yes. But it was just having like, we have some like beautiful little spots like your shop and my shop that people might not know. Or like restaurants are unbelievable. Like if we just highlight some areas and put attention to us and not be an event, like I love events. I just don't know that we need to like keep on expanding on events, just trying to bring focus on us to like, maybe we feel like, oh, I'd love to open up a shop or something. It's nice, right? Instead of like not showing everything else. Just putting out an idea.
it,
I think maybe what you were referring to as opposed to long term. Like this morning, I didn't realize St. Paul Street was closed. And I don't, why is it closed? I don't know. Right?
That's the land, the lights.
Well, but maybe, how easy is it for the office to send a bulletin to the 400 or 500 members?
So we did, is the challenge has been their dates of install and road closures have changed. So we're keeping it more up to date with social, so otherwise we'd be emailing every single day to the members. So,
So like a daily bulletin, so to speak, when these occurrences happen, to the weather office and stuff. Well, whatever it is, it could be the rain, it could be the close St. Paul's. But in the morning, when we know something has happened, daily bulletin to all of our members, that they can perhaps tell their customers, or whatever.
I don't know that you're ever gonna keep up with this. I mean,
you
it's
know,
a new
you've been
street
on
every,
social media posts.
yeah, it's a new street every time. It's,
and I will say, like, if I want something both Street or city, so the city did send out email notification to those who were signed up, but the ones where we have the challenge where we're not always notified, sometimes we are, but not always, are the development closures, right? So like Garden Park's closed today, most of Harlem's closed today, there was no notification of that. So that's a case of, oh, you see it, and that's how you learn.
it just felt a lot this morning, and I was like, this could be discouraging for sure. I just know our like business walkthroughs are like really diminished. They just
Just to get through this, because I want to make sure sensitive about time. Holy Festival, they do have a review of ROI on that. They're just saying like that it was very good. Do we have actual numbers on that now? Because I know we asked that last time.
It's a good question. It was tight between Holy and Block, and I can't remember if we finally got those back. And to give you the numbers were in terms of like number of attendees, number of
Number of attendees and then revenue stream we had discussed. Like
Yeah, I think-
that happens for revenue, but no one had precise numbers. I haven't seen the exact numbers come through either, so I'm not.
And I think the challenge with Holy is we still have a number of expenses that we were just trying to have go through. We were waiting for some invoices to come through.
Yeah.
I think most of them are in now, so we should be able to get that to you, but yeah. So our numbers by far went up though, in terms of, you know, sales, general admission. I think as I shared probably at the last meeting, we had about 230 people pre-sales, the 2022 Holy, and for this year, sorry, we had well over 1,000. So
you think we'll be able to chase Block Party with that too? both want with financial partners.
So I will be, so yes, budget wise, we can, number of participants for block party is harder to track fully. We make people pre-register because we needed to know permission who to go with pay pit and stuff. Block party is not a pre-registered event. We did have an Eventbrite and a Facebook event, but it's a free open roll music festival, so most people don't use that. But we can probably still put those numbers to show examples.
Okay.
And sorry, Katie, who's online, she has to leave soon, unfortunately, for another work commitment, is wondering if we can bump up marketing next, if possible.
Yes. Does anyone else have any other questions for events and updates? No. I think we are good. Then yeah, we can jump in.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So marketing updates. We have an update on the gift card program. Looks like we're going to be launching for October, which is really exciting because that'll be just in time to give it some runway before the holiday season. So that's super exciting. We're also well on our way working on the comm strategy, which from that will hopefully come updates to the website, a branding guide, and a whole bunch of stuff that will help Kat and Sarah. So that's exciting. And I'm just hoping that Kat is sending over some exciting social media stats from the block party that highlight some of the successes. Kat, how are we doing on that?
I'm sorry, what are you requesting?
Were you gonna send me some of the social media wins?
I don't have that compiled. I took some, I've been working on some
Cool.
projects. I don't have that.
All good. Well, I saw lots of it online, and from a qualitative perspective, I thought it was very well done, the social coverage. So that's very good. And then separate to marketing updates, but just in general, going forward, I have a standing weekly commitment at 1 p.m. on Mondays that would require me to perpetually be joining virtually and then also have to have a hard stop at 1 p.m. So I just wanted to put it out there if anyone is amendable to meeting a little bit earlier on Mondays for our board meetings, if anyone would be open to that. Just wanted to throw it out there now, but I'll probably ask Rachel to send out an email as well following up on that. Any questions about marketing?
Yeah, I think Moorman, you had a question?
Just wondering, like, who was in charge of sending the brochures for the block party? Rather than maybe before the event. I mean, that's kind of a short notice. So I was just wondering who's in charge of that.
That was us. I think the challenge with that was we had to do mapping for the city. And I believe there was a map on the brochure to go to, and the map was very delayed in coming out because we were waiting for input from wanting to give our businesses as much opportunity to participate as possible. There were a few that we literally heard from that week, the week before, that we were able to add on the map luckily, but wouldn't have been able to if we pre-printed. I think, to be honest with you, in the future, we're going to have to do a hard stop a month before. And look, if you don't have submissions to us a month before, we can't get you on. And I will be honest with you, there were a few members that came to me a week before, and I had to say no because our maps go to fire a month before for permission, and we were able to squeeze a few in who we've done like some wiggle room with, or they didn't have a big footprint, but there were some we had to say no to, and it wasn't well received by them, unfortunately. I think next year what I'm going to have to do is work closer with them and say, give us your best dream, and we dream big on this map, and maybe it scales back if they can't commit to it down the line.
I know, but at the same time, I mean, there's got to kind of days for certain people submitting information to us. So when I get the people to do the board, okay.
The ideal,
that's like that.
So the idea with it, which is why we only gave one per business, was that it was there for staff who were there the day of the event, in case people came in and said, hey, what's going on? they could say, oh, it's a block party, this is the match, and take a photo. That was kind of the premise behind giving to each business. I think Jen and then Kathy.
Are we able to maybe just ditch the map and make QR code there, and then we have a digital map that they have on their phone, and then they can just see it, and then we can change it up to 5 minutes before?
Yes, so what I was gonna add is we did a big digital push this year, so we have the schedule online as soon as we hired things or out of the month, we had it on our website, right? So every member newsletter, we put a link to the block party to try and hopefully help educate people on just like what was happening that day, because I know it's one of our main events.
Yeah.
Last year when we did the block party, the map was a huge hit. We'd also did it at the time guide, and we kept running out of them, struggling to reprint them, which is why we let the brochure again. But we did focus on more of the online, like hybrid this year. That information was running online on the website as soon as it's coming in, which was trickling in.
I was gonna say, because it's the same issue where you still have to make an update to the site.
Yeah. So
you still kind of run into the same.
Yeah.
How much of your time can we squeeze before you're so, but yeah, that's okay.
Well, just look at the amount of money that you spent on that for the day before, and then you still have it accurate because people are trying to submit to positions, whatever they want to do. So you spend all that money, and it's like, what are we doing with this?
So what would you like to see? Like,
Well,
what would the solution be to that?
Well, we'll give you at least a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, a month ahead of time, some flyers, some brochures to put in your window, block parties, or when customers are coming in. There's a tremendous amount of notice. There's times when people coming in or passing by, walking by, whatever the case is. I've been asked many times to put in my windows, and I have over the years for various occasions, that I thought would be benefiting the downtown core. So that's all I'm saying. I spent money for no reason for one day, how many people saw it? No, if ever. That's all. Okay.
Any other questions marketing related?
I just wanted to mention to you that there are meetings that happen before this one. So to bump this meeting ahead, we have to bump at least 2 or 3 other meetings ahead. Because they all happen on the same day. They're kind of compiled so that some of us can just keep knocking out scattered meetings.
I think after lunch should be past 1 o'clock.
Well, we used to do the 2:30.
2:30 is late, but 1
Yeah.
o'clock, lunch is.
Well, the problem is she's gone by 1. So.
Oh, well,
Well,
later is fine with me as well. Like if we wanted to do it later in the afternoon, it's just, I have a meeting from 1 to 3 every Monday going forward now. So if we wanted to do like 3:30 or 4 or evening. Oh, and honestly, we don't have to shift things for me. I just wanted to put it out there that if there was flexibility, I would appreciate it. But if not, I of course will be joining virtually and for the full amount that I can.
And I think just to your point, parents, I'm just checking the calendar. Usually on board meeting date, there's not that much ahead of time. I agree with you, most of our meetings usually are Mondays, but because this is always the last Monday, I think we try to keep the last Monday just before.
You're down with them? Did everyone finally get switched around? Is that why? We all.
They're they're.
Okay. Are we all done for marketing then? We're good? Yeah.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Katie.
I'm just gonna work
I'll
backwards.
stay here for a little bit, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. We're just gonna work backwards. So Jennifer, if you wanted to go over streetscape and sustainability update.
Actually, there's not too much of an update. Lindsay has been working really hard. She's been having meetings and calls with other municipalities and individuals about everything from trees to benches to garbage to everything. That she's compiled quite a few comprehensive reports and docs in like in an easily accessible format. If anybody wants kind of an interim glance at what's happening versus getting everything at the end, by all means reach out to Lindsay and she will forward anything that you want so that you're able to kind of read it as everything is moving along. Streetscape and sustainability, even though beautification is part of one of the things we touch on, we were not part of what you guys were discussing with respect to the road closures and the lights going across. The only thing we were a part of with respect to that, which was some time ago, I want to say even in the year, was that we had the extensions built. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but the lights are actually higher than the light pole itself, because people kind of forgot about the garbage trucks arms. And there's a 15 or 16 foot swing on those garbage bins. So the garbage truck had to be able to, well, work, you know, with this job. So yeah, that was basically it. So that was done a really long time ago. So we never ever heard again about the lights. So we're just as surprised as everyone else. It's a road closure. So yeah.
It's easy to overlook the garbage truck.
Yeah, you know, well, it's because there's a lot of things that they didn't think of it either. Yeah. And thankfully, we are very lucky to have Peter DiPietro, who's amazing, on our subcommittee, or on our committee. And it was something we were wondering about right away. And it was like just a little bit of a light bulb moment that I think we were basically able to pass on. Good. So, but they certainly look beautiful and very happy.
Question, what's the update on the historical plaques?
Oh, the plaques.
Yeah, what
So I just reached out to them here about that. Their plan is to get them reinstalled in the fall. So they're just going through the work right now of getting the data and doing the printing, and then they'll hopefully install.
With respect to historic stuff, one thing that has come up a couple of times, and I didn't realize was maybe more of a thing until I spoke with my landlord, Doug Levitt, who's owned buildings downtown for over 100 years, his family. They live above us, and they're amazing. But I don't think that there's a lot of businesses aware of the provincially mandated washrooms, Rachel, or
AOTA.
I don't even know what it's called, because it doesn't really apply to retailers. It applies to service individuals in restaurants with respect to the accessible bathrooms. Right. By the end of accessible, yeah. So the accessible bathrooms, again, I apologize, especially if anyone's watching on YouTube, that I actually don't know the name of the initiative from the provincial government.
It's the OTA.
Okay, that I'm wondering if we should have an education. I know that we've done something already, and there's been, like, we've talked about it, but I know that doesn't have to really do with sustainability, but it does have to do potentially like people accessing the downtown. That Doug was none the wiser and had never heard of it at all. So I don't know what the province has done. Again, it doesn't really apply to me as Little Chico, but if, you know, in 5 years or something, if we were not to be in our building, it would definitely apply to Doug if a coffee shop wants to go in there. So it's more so, I think that we might need to do an education piece, because, and again, like we spoke last month, that we've had a few businesses unable to, or having challenges with respect to the permitting in the city and the downtown in general, that this is mandated by the province. So we definitely want to make sure that our members are in the know on how to kind of get over these hurdles.
Keep in mind that I'm very aware of what's mandated. Existing washrooms do not have to change the grandfather. Anywhere you get a permit or a renovation, they're going to want, with the new standards, i.e. you have to have the automatic door opener. We used to have a 5-foot radius turning for a wheelchair. Now they're making 5.5 feet. The doors used to be 30 inches. I think now it's got 30 36 or 42. So it definitely new standards, very expensive. New accessible washing. Washing we used to put in the premises is about $1,200. Now you're into about 7,500, maybe 8,000. But if even more, okay.
Try 10.5 to 12.
Wow. Last one we did was about a year ago, but in any event, existing ones are not going to have to change. They are grandfathered. Anything with a new building permit or renovation, we will have.
It's a lot of good things. It just as soon as Orhan had said, mentioned about the historic piece, that was the first thing that came into my mind is, like, I thought immediately of the Foss building with their beautiful door. And how do you make all of these,
You can get historical exemption.
correct, but there's probably people that'll have questions. There are probably a few people that have questions. So we should probably be prepared or have some type of education piece, because that deadline is potentially coming quite quickly if we are struggling to get permits now.
I imagine that will get a little worse before it gets
Yes.
Yeah. It's from my understanding from that rule is a grandfather rule. Like you're frozen in time. You change any little thing at all.
Correct.
Thereafter, right away.
So no, if you change something, then now you have to go to the.
Even unpermitted. You redo the front of your store.
Anything.
Well,
And when I say redo, like change the glass, paint job, new door, kind of stuff like that, where it's, I wouldn't personally go for a permit to switch it, and the town says, well, no. We're pointing the finger at you. That's like, you done.
yeah, I think Martin identified that is the fine line between renovation and building.
That's tough.
That would be a lot of our restaurants.
Well, apparently it doesn't really apply to retail. It's only service and restaurant. It could definitely encourage more retail downtown, because a building owner or a property manager may not want to rent to a service-based industry because they want to keep it retail, just because they don't want to do this massive investment. Well, and especially too, and I'm sure you can appreciate, if they've already made a recent investment in the past 5 years and they don't want to have to reinvest to do something that wasn't required however many years ago.
We needed to be accessible 11 years ago for our renovation permit.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and not all of them have the same requirements at home.
That's correct.
Like if you're serving alcohol, you're under the highest restrictions. That's when you get the works.
You have to change papers. So clean it the first again, you'll get that over anybody, have to press that button, the alarm goes off.
Well, the toughest is the water licensing court. That's what comes under LLPO.
Yeah, they're tough cookies.
Yeah, that's what it's going to do.
Where were we? Streetscape and sustainability update.
Yeah, no.
Do you have any questions for Jen at all?
Does sustainability and all that mean like even like cleaning up the sidewalks?
All sorts of stuff. So all the cleaning of the sidewalks, even though you know that's usually pertaining to garbage, but to say if it's cigarette butts and all that, we kind of umbrella that under beautification, because we really just want to keep the downtown clean and nice. But, yeah, we look after just the streetscape. So like garbage, cigarette butts, all that kind of stuff. The encampments, the hoarding. So all of the plywood that's up, how we need to address that with the city, because it maybe should be,
Like one thing wall?
well, I wasn't naming, I'm not naming anything.
I wasn't saying, sorry, but I did talk to the mayor and I asked, I said, what is going on with that area?
So so we have quite a few discussions, and again, please join Streetscape and Sustainability if you want to present questions as well, so we can, you know, you might have a very enlightening question that we haven't discussed yet, because we're definitely trying to formulate an approach so that we can have, we don't have any bylaws, right, about these things. And many of the, I mean, I'm a broken record because we're all well aware that the bylaws are very antiquated and whatnot. There's a lot of ways to get around things, but we are dealing with significant problems that maybe didn't exist in like 1971, maybe some of those bylaws or whatever, because there was no vacancy downtown because it was packed and we had Levitt's China and we had the fabric store and we had everything else, right? Where because we have a lot of I don't even want to say hoarding murals in case people are like, what's that? Just all the plywood that's up, that we should have public art on it. Maybe it's wrapped if it's going to be X amount of time, so that it beautifies the downtown. And it shouldn't just be that you can slap up plywood, leave it there for half a decade, and there's like no repercussions or no anything. So I'm sorry.
There was a project in Niagara Falls down by Ferry Street. And I noticed that when unfortunately it was a funeral, I was driving the back roads, and there was a property development that was taking place. And all along where the plywood was, there was art.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So Josh, I said to Josh, going back home, he goes to Niagara Falls, I said, check it out. He did. He liked what I noticed, and he also thought it was a cool idea. And you see that more so in Toronto. You see the different, actually beautiful pictures of the development that guys are creating or doing, or nice artistry, or using it for more than just a plywood sheet.
Right.
Okay, so maybe communication should be done with some of these people that are actually giving the permits and say, by the way, okay, you're going to be required to blah 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 blah. Like to see you do something.
So this is where the bylaws come in, because technically, if it's not written down, they don't have to do anything. We can ask very nicely for all sorts of things. So we, and of course, like if Little Chief's window, something happened, I would absolutely be putting something there if I'm waiting 3 months for my window glass to come back in. But some people don't have the approach such as we do, because we all just that happen to be sitting here, not only have businesses downtown, but we're front facing. We're seeing our customers all the time, right? Yeah. So yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Discussing now. Party does not come under the municipal bylaws. The city is now looking into a policy that would exclude a bylaw. They are looking into that exact building standards.
Yes.
And if they can do it under building standards, and looking at all the different lengths of terms, size, and what they do. So the city is now looking at that.
Yes, yes.
What's the most started applies to people. So if they feel that your building is abandoned and it's boarded up, and there's no like
That's something, no, that's a big.
It is very constant.
They're fine. Dealing with boarding.
Yeah.
Boarding is still, well, more than I can think of.
Yeah.
The city itself is trying to formulate something.
So we're
under building standards.
We are working hard to have movement in this area so that we can assist any way we can with respect to whether it's permits, bylaws, whatever it is for our city, that we're just letting the city know what our members are what we are and what our members are experiencing and what they're saying. Yeah, so we really are trying to, we manage all sorts of things like that, or try to do our best to communicate with the city.
So just want to let everybody know you're not noticing, but part of the Long House used to be, there is what about down there.
Yes.
Oh, where street?
Where the Long House used to be, so on 3rd Street in King, so there is now activities. So they're actively working there, making some good progress. I think that's very important for us to know in case somebody asks. And also just to keep people looking in a positive way of being shot more or building more and saying, okay, there's movement, there's progress. Even the simplest things I can be happy with, you know?
Yeah.
really can make things go forward and feel happy coming into work instead of nothing's changing, nothing's going on, you know, and you get tired of that sometimes. When you see improvements or you see things going forward, you're like, yes, okay, this is there.
Even about the fence that's at your back door, our back door, that fence is.
I talked to them, I know it's ridiculous. I don't know how people get away with it. I don't know what's going on in there.
It's like, it's
Yeah, and then,
one third falling.
and it has barbed wire all over.
Barbed wire in the top.
One right beside me, that's like, there's someone working in there every day, and I don't know what it's
The
going
bar
to
that was
be.
Premier Trust.
Is that
building.
Is that
Be the white
Christopher's?
bar. No.
They had collapsed that building.
No, that's not what we're talking about. It's right beside us. I don't know what it's going to
Our
be.
building's a
So
disaster.
I would encourage you, if.
Oh,
you're-
I have called
Properties.
everything.
Really? So
Oh,
then
yeah,
let me-
and they don't feel like it's, like, they're like, okay, we'll take a look.
So if you guys have any photos you can send me, or I can get on the way back, then that helps me, because I find photos help push people.
I don't know what's going on in there.
All the old-
I have told, like,
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
We were just talking with the two fellows that, you know, the standards of the city, you know, they never get higher, they just get a little bit of road, a little bit of road.
I just don't know how he gets, cause you were mentioning that there has to be like, cause I'm learning all of this, like, that you have to have, like, if you're making a lot of money, that you have to kind of have a place where you use your money. Or
Okay, so yeah, no, that's, yes, that's
You gotta keep.
Yeah, no, I don't know, I'm not that big.
anytime when you have a successful business somewhere else, you need a loss. Because you don't want to pay as much tax.
I feel like that might be the issue.
Oh.
I don't know 100%, I don't know, I just know that it's like dangerous, it's like falling over, and when my customers were walking,
Yes.
there's barbed wire. Where
Can
the
you
issue?
reach the barbed wire?
Oh, yeah,
Is it lower than 8 feet?
oh,
Yeah.
like.
Oh.
Sorry, but the city, I've had mayor, I've had every single person I've called, like, what's every phone record and email.
There's typically rules on barbed wire fence.
That's less than 8 feet is illegal.
Yeah, and the reason being is people should be able to just reach up and grab it. The point of barbed wire is that if you're trying to climb the fence, it's now preventing you from getting over the top. You don't do that standing on the ground. You do that when you're already on the fence or with a ladder. So anything that's a potential danger to the general public that is within their reach.
Well, I was about to say that
I
sometimes
can reach 8 feet, no problem. So-
scale can be lost. So maybe if you have someone like yourself, right, and then say, I'm X feet tall,
Okay.
this is how long this is, or you use a tape measure, you hold it up, and you have someone take a picture of you, and in the email say, this is
Razor wire.
length, because that
Oh, it's like, it's stuff that people put like, just like. It's still a time profession.
Yeah, is it razor or barbed?
yeah, but at the end of the day, that's, at the end of the day, regardless to if it's in your backyards,
It's attached to my building.
correct, and at the end of the day, what is really the point that hits home is that it's actually on a city lot. It's attached to a city parking lot, which means that if it were to fall over, or someone's not watching their kid and they grab onto the fence and it falls down, the city is liable.
And close standard. Get on the front page.
And
I'm trying to bring people down. But not okay. I think we get that now.
That's been fun before I make it on.
Talking about these.
So,
No, oh gosh, I don't know. But I have reached out, like, this hasn't been an island issue.
Oh, see, they'll get something action. The CDO of the city.
Maybe your voice can help me.
is it CEO or COO?
That's CAO.
CAO?
Oh,
Is it?
no, I think you said CE.
Well, he's the highest ranking
CAO, yeah.
employee in the city.
You can just take my call.
He's a good guy.
Great guy, great.
Okay. Streetscape and
Oh, no,
sustainability.
I'm
That,
totally,
right?
yeah, I was done a long time.
Executive committee meeting, really the big thing from there was the budget committee to form, so. There's really nothing else to cover off on that.
no, it was a short meeting.
Yeah, very short, it was nice. Governance update, I don't have a name beside governance update.
No, we still need to chair. We'll get one soon. So I can.
I'm there next meeting.
I can just do a quick update. So if anyone hasn't been given one of these, or hasn't done it electronically, I think it was sent out electronically. If you guys don't mind completing it, sorry, give you a couple to pass around.
Oh, you typed already?
I can check, just not right now, and let me know. I think one person completed it electronically, but they didn't.
No, some of them.
You didn't, and there was no name.
Some of them, but I can.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Let me find out there, please.
So everything is important. It's, well, I used to be, but I'm going down to zero.
Yeah, let me look that up here. It's really quickly.
Why are we doing this?
In case there is anything on the board, it will help us, know what our gals are, so we know. So question 6.
What category was?
Transfer experience in the college. Really good question.
I have kids, they are.
It's not, it's just ignore that.
I did sort of everything else.
Yeah. Thank you, appreciate that.
So was that it for governance?
And then the only other couple little things maybe to share for governance is, that we were talking, I think, about the next election and just, looking to put some changes and create a plan for how best to address, people running on the floor versus people pre-submitting, and those different things. So we're looking to create a bit of a policy on that piece, which we will share with you guys. Finalized.
Let's do more business instead of people. Stress the government. I'm serious. These kinds of things over and over and over again. Let's push forward with some business. Let's get going with business. Okay, I'm getting tired of these kinds of questions. To be honest with you, I don't care what anybody thinks. Tell me the truth. Let's go on with business. Let's promote business. Let's do business. Make it healthy and happy, prosperous downtown, clean, tidy, inviting. Be an example in the community in the Niagara region. Said, look at it. They're downtown, they were nothing, and look at how they are now, or they bounce back to where they used to be. Okay?
And a huge amount of investment, in the public sector. Now the private sector is starting to kick in, so there's every opportunity for us to move forward.
Well, I know, I don't see it, but I mean, getting bogged down with all this paperwork all the time. Why are we even on the board for it?
4 years.
I know, I'm for 4 years, but we got on here for a reason. Nothing for people are going.
All volunteers.
Very much.
Okay. Okay.
Let me just add, because I'm on the committee, but too chicken to be chairman. This voting nominated from the floor is an issue we have to deal with. Unfortunately, there's bylaws, see some legalities on what you can do and what you can't do. So that took a large portion of the time, Rachel, and we've got to deal with that. How do we qualify? How does somebody qualify to be able to be nominated and so on? So we have to view of provincial legislation and practicality of somebody just showing up.
Yeah, you got provincial, municipal.
Yeah, so it was the in-depth discussion. We're not finished with it.
Yeah.
I guess, well, I'll be there. I will be there.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
So,
Oh, then you can put your hand in the chair.
probably low. I think the biggest thing with the nomination on the floor, just, sorry, not to log in, but I think you let him stop with it.
Probably.
It is in the municipal act, so
Yeah.
there's no getting around it. I think that the challenge is we want to make sure that we're being fair to those who have pre-submitted and done all their homework ahead of time by the deadline. That was kind of just the discussion, I think. So,
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, though, Rachel, it's a vote. They had to vote you in.
it's true, but sometimes, for example, people running from the floor, and as they did, but should do the same, have the same requirements, do the same paperwork, get the same permission, get signatures.
Has to be fair.
Yeah. All that kind of stuff. So I think it's making sure everybody jumps to the same.
Wasn't aware of what was
A lot.
Yeah, so I wasn't aware of what was, I guess just put out that there was an opportunity, like just personally, I didn't know what you had to do before. I just like approached a person like an opportunity and where someone thought maybe I might be a good fit, so I went in. I didn't go with any like intention to be like, yeah.
Oh, no one's saying that. It's just that there's a significant amount of paperwork and signatures.
Right.
And you have to have a sponsor. It is a whole set of paperwork that you need to submit. And then of course then there was the video component. Really just so that your information is there and you are really someone who really wants to do this.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it doesn't mean whether you're running off the floor or not. If you're someone who really wants to do it, of course you do. But at the same time, we shouldn't be almost penalizing people who got all the paperwork done, right? Which took a lot of time and effort and whatnot. And then I showed up and just said, I'm just going to talk to the microphone for 1 minute. Thanks. That's it.
Right.
It's like, whoa, that took me like 4 days of work to get all of that done.
To get understand. I didn't know that any of that was necessary. I thought it was video.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind.
Correct.
Keeping in mind, eventually mandated legislation. However, there's always a caveat that under all the provincial mandates, municipalities, organizations can have certain changes in policy.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what we're doing.
But at the end of the day, the people that were on that list too, so many of those individuals did all of that work and didn't get a chance to speak to anyone on the floor. So where it's like, oh, I only had to do that, right? Because not everyone watched the videos online, right? So, you certainly have a captured audience because they're watching at that moment. Correct, at that moment, which would make it be like, oh, I don't even know Amy. Of course, she sounded great. I'm voting for Amy. But they never saw any of the paperwork or videos or got a chance to get to know anyone who might have done all of that more preemptive stuff. So, which is fine, but at the same time, it should be fair.
If I may, the only other governance piece to add, is the city is hosting a code of conduct and conflict of interest training on September 18th from 6 to 7:30. They have put this training on with the Integrity Commissioner on board for their boards. So city boards, loosely city board, are us, the Performing Arts Center, and the Public Library. So we're one of 3 that have been invited to this training. So I will be strongly encouraging all the board members to please, and I will send a calendar invite, mark on September 18th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. It is just for board members. September 18th, sorry. Yeah, I think it's a Monday evening. And I'm currently in conversation with the city to see if we can possibly host it at City Hall, so we can kind of sit together. Maybe I bring in dinner or something like that as an enticement for you guys sitting there for an hour.
Just a question, because who's coming? Was there a particular board that initiated to make sure that this happened?
I'm not sure. I think
or is it more the city councils that have more?
Yeah, I think it's more coming from the city because there's been a lot of turnover, right? So our boards mirror that of council. So and on the 3 boards, there's probably been a fair bit of turnover because you have to do the re-election piece, right? It's mirroring that of council. So I think it's more a case of it's best practice that's seen across the province, where typically whenever a new board has come in as a result of council changes, new training happens. So.
And then is it just the 3 boards going, or is it council?
No, just the 3 boards. Yeah, just the local boards. And it is done by Zoom, so you don't have to meet in person. I just thought it might be nicer for the same. But if people would prefer to just watch it at home, then it's totally doable. I believe it's Monday, yeah. Yes. Can I jump into new business?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think we can close governance update. I don't think we have anything else. I don't need the governance committee to deal with whatever's there still. That's gonna be a fun one. But yeah, we want to jump into new business. Do we want to do the MOU first?
So this is the MOU that I'm sharing with everyone. So the memorandum of understanding is something I drafted a little while ago and sent to the city when I first started to kind of say, we'd love to get this. It's the best practice that BIs are doing across the province. Not a ton, but it is a new best practice coming out. And it is typically an agreement document to basically say, this is what the city is responsible for, this is what the BI is responsible for, here's how we communicate, here's how we work together. So as mentioned, this was done a little while ago, so there are some things that I've already identified I need to update. But if anybody is interested and has time to read through, I really encourage you to do so. And let me know if there's anything that jumps out at you that you feel that we missed or that could be added that could be a benefit to the BIA.
So just quick, this is the changes to the one that exists.
This is the one the city has sent back with changes. So this has gone through all the city departments. They have done their review and basically all their changes I described as cheap. There is not in color, but I can send you the electronic. It's linked in the thing. But their changes are all in red underlined, basically. Does that make sense? For you, they're underlined.
So the one that's posted online.
There's not one posted online. But there is, but I emailed you, I think, the link to it.
Yeah, you did.
Up there.
Yeah, this is the agreement between the city and the BIA. It's online.
Right.
Yeah. And we used to have it posted as well.
It's
not called.
This isn't finalized. These are
no.
This is the policies and procedures. It's just not our bylaws. This is totally different. This is like who does snow clearing, who does the planters. It's nitty-gritty day-to-day operations.
Oh.
Yeah.
This isn't the contract between us and the. This is
total aside. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes and no. I always get scared with hands and feet items because they're usually a little bit fluid and can change quite often, which means it'd be a document that should be updated bi-yearly, yearly, every 2 years, something like that. But it would be something where the governance committee would, this would be a document that would be at the start of it every year and go through and be like, yes, no, yes, no.
Yeah.
Shove it back to the city, and the city should shove it back. The fact that it took 2 years to get back to the first one means it's probably out of date, which is a little bit scary because we could have gone through 2 years of snow plowing contracts with the city, depending on if they're doing their own snow plowing and someone else is doing plowing, something could have switched and this is now building.
Yeah, and that's the challenge, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think I need to find a staff champion perhaps at the city that will, and Samir has been my contact with this, which has been great, but I think also the backlog with this one coming back to us, it was the first of its kind. The city has never seen anything like this.
So
and let's just be honest, most cities are very risk averse, which is why, you know, for example, number 2, this is not binding or enforceable and no obligations.
yeah. Could you have it the next time it runs through the departments? The department actually signs off on this department looking after this part of
That's a
it right
good
now.
idea.
So that when you redo it, not that you want email addresses for the departments to do anything else with, but just so that you can have this updated in a timely fashion. You might be able to get to the appropriate parties on time, and maybe you might have to put the little statement at the top that the information enclosed for the parties that are giving information, their actual contact information is only pertains to this, isn't shared, blah, blah, blah. I hate those things.
Yeah.
But they're really good.
So those guys over here, earlier, they're here for home office.
They're here for 3 days. So they came up yesterday. They're here today, tomorrow, and then Wednesday.
All day.
All day today and all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so flipping to that, if nobody else has questions on MOU stuff.
I will
So,
say this, very helpful.
oh, it would be so good. Yeah, yeah,
Because now they know who can speak both of fire
that's true too.
when
Yeah.
stuff does or doesn't happen.
So going back, sorry, to the revitalization stuff, if anybody has not done the survey, I do have printed copies in case we've not done the electronic copy there. The deadline is like today. So please, if you have not done this, please do it. We want your voice heard, especially as board members. I can just give you one more.
Thought I did this one online.
You may have done, yeah, we pushed it out online a lot too. And they have had a number of surveys back, I think over 600, so that.
Yeah, this is the one where if you do it online, it skips questions.
Yeah.
And if you do it in person, it doesn't skip questions.
Yeah.
Confusing.
Yeah. And so tomorrow night, 4 to 7, they have their public input meeting here. If anybody is available, I really encourage you to come. As mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, so I'm not going to go into that too much. The other one I wanted to bring up, just so you don't get any surprises, I don't think you will, the business licenses. So I've been in a number of conversations with the city, specifically bylaw and licensing. As you may know, we do have 2 illegal businesses on St. Paul Street right now that unfortunately only fall under the jurisdiction of police. No one else can do anything because there's no protocols and there's no licenses they need to get. So there's no hands to slap. So licensing are looking to create business licenses pretty much for everything, business-wise. So just giving you a heads up, they are looking for it not to penalize small businesses though. So they're looking at creative things where, you know, for example, maybe it's based on number of retail store needs a business license, but maybe based on number of staff. So if you have 100 staff plus, you have to pay a higher license fee, or, you know, and so on and so on. By doing that, it allows the city to have a little bit of teeth around some of those illegal businesses, so they can go and say, hey, you don't have a business license, here's your fine today. Hey, you still don't, here's your fine today. And they add up those fines, so hopefully those illegal businesses shut down quicker than what is currently happening, which is
We have them in fall right now.
yeah.
Can you talk anything about
Yes, but I'm just hesitant because the meeting was recorded in public.
Right.
But
We're gonna have an opportunity
carry on.
coming up. So if you just hold on to that question,
Yeah.
I'll give you an opportunity.
Okay, perfect.
yeah, anybody online that would like to reach out directly, see for that way. And then the other piece I did just want to bring up is we are looking to do a lot more outreach to our members. The challenge we have the most, I would argue, is with property owners, because we have no contact information typically given to us for property owners. So I do have some lists of property owners, and I would, if you guys have a few minutes to just look over it. I don't know, it's not really public knowledge, and I haven't really put too much information in here. It's really just the owner's name and their property address. If anyone can just do a quick look through and say, I know that property owner, or I know that person, and just put your name beside it, or whatever you want to do, that will just help me come and, I will be honest, maybe harass you and say, hey, can you introduce me to that person so I can find out what they're doing in my building? Or so I can get their contact information and add them to our distribution list. This we get from the city. Because the only people are our members. Yeah, yeah. So this is our member list. We just, like I said, it's hard for us to connect with our property owners because we don't have those direct contacts. So we just want to do more hand-holding with them, right? Yeah. Sorry, I think that's good for me.
have something for new business, if no one else does.
Yeah, no,
Okay, just with the conversation that's happened today, and I see here for governance, where it says block champions, which I love the block champions board member, I don't know, whatever we call them, or if it would even happen. You've broached about the car show again, Rachel, in this meeting, where I don't know how many surveys have been returned. I don't know if the board member or the directors that were supposed to, or that went to those businesses, if the business did not return the form, if, you know, do we go back and revisit them? Do we go and answer questions? Do we collect them ourselves and bring them to you? But also the fact that we are missing chairs for committees, and that maybe all, I don't know what directors have joined committees. That it brings me to a little bit more of a systemic question where, as the SCDA, have we defined what our board of directors is? Are we governance? Are we working? Are we, I don't know how many iterations there are. I guess it's rhetorical, but in the gist of it, I guess, is that obviously maybe I mean, goes without saying, but how the board and SCDA membership responds, and our level of engagement and our activity level has certainly increased over the past maybe 3 to 5 years. Maybe the way things were before, it's a very different board than it was 8 or 10 or plus years ago. Maybe it's worth having a discussion, you know, another day, with respect to defining what our actual responsibilities are as board members in case, I mean, there could be miscommunications, there could be people don't know what they're signing up for. Like people are, you know, like just we can't really move forward with doing something like block champions if we're not a working board. Like defined, you know what I mean? So I'm not sure what other BIAs do with respect to their board. I'm very naive to that. I don't look at other BIAs and look at their minutes and watch them and read about them. So I don't know, I'm just kind of putting it out there because maybe that might allow for more cohesiveness. And it also might just answer some questions with respect to what our responsibilities are, especially with respect to how we make decisions, like, so just how people vote, but also, you know, there's our fiduciary duties, which are totally separate, which is under the Municipal Act and everything else. So with respect to our board, I don't know, I think it's having a conversation, because I don't even know what those options are, but it certainly seems like we have, like, especially like the surveys, committees, joining a committee, having a chairperson. These are such foundational basic things that I don't know how we could then move up to like block champion. Like some type of system. I don't know if I'm totally out of line, but I'm just kind of like spitballing here.
So only because I've had the opportunity to serve with boards.
Amazing.
I've seen a couple of things. I think one of the biggest things that I've noted throughout time on boards is typically you will write a lot of, or I'm gonna call it, sorry, but typically like your chair, vice chair, usually have the largest responsibility on your board and usually the highest time commitment by far from anyone else. That comes down to the communication piece and a couple other things that they should be doing as a function. I think one of the biggest things we have to watch out for, and I know we ran just the other word, is what we asked to do versus what you're trying to do. Yeah. And one board got a little on the side of this is what we'd like to do, and then membership came back and said, never asked you to do that. Stop in your tracks. Right. After you are gone, and half were gone. Simply because they love the direction they're going and what they're doing, but wasn't necessarily what they were asked to do. So I think that always has to be like a check and balance. I think one of the biggest issues that we have on our here, and I'm going to say it publicly, is what is our mandate? If I ask that question, I'm 100% confident that I will get a different answer from everyone in this room. I don't think any of us will really have the same answer, and that's your large, like what you're discussing right now. I would point down to one thing and one thing only. That would be is, what is this group supposed to do specifically, and tell me in 2 sentences, no more. If it takes you more than 2 sentences to describe it, everyone will have a different answer.
Right.
So I think it is something that really needs to be looked at really hard. I know it is come down on a municipal level exactly what we're supposed to be doing, but typically most organizations flip it and put their own words. So I will let you go.
What the Belgium was booklet there, aims, objectives, policy. However, it's defined, that's what we need. What are our aims, our objectives, being a member of this board, as a policy, whoever writes it or whatever. But under those 2 words, it covers everything of what we want to do, how we want to do, what we want.
Yeah,
that's what we aim to.
But I really feel that we have to like, kind of like what the MOU is doing, we kind of have to write it down so that everyone, so we kind of have the guidelines.
We have one right now. It is going to lapse soon. So Rachel, you have strat plan.
Yeah.
Normally your strat plan has all that in it.
100%.
I've read through that strat plan. I don't know if anyone here has.
Yes.
I will say this publicly, let it go on public record. When I got to the end, I was more confused than when I started. Okay. So if someone from the outside comes in and reads the strat plan and is more confused, that means people maybe internally who wrote it, it's perfect. The problem is most people reside outside this board and not inside. And they're very, very difficult to write. I've only ever had to write one for all the boards I've been on. I've only had to do it once. They're very involved, and what we did find out is every single board member who was missing, when we came back to finalize, we had to redo it because we realized every single voice mattered. And then on top of that, we brought people from the outside in to really say, do you understand this? And then we had to rewrite it again. And it was very like, but that it fixed, I would say, almost 65 to 70% of the problems that we're having on that board.
So 5 years ago, when Mike with Francisco formed the governance committee because we had no governance for the BIA.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure you can appreciate if we have no governance, that rules are kind of flying out there all over the place. And strat plans, when Matt and Mike formed the governance committee, that was, I think, priority number 1 to get it up to date. Because how old was it, Rachel? Do you remember?
Well, our strat plan was done just before I joined.
Yes, just before you joined, but the one before that, do you recall?
It was a lot older.
It was ancient.
I that ancient. I think it was maybe a 3-4 year document at the end of its lifespan. But some of the comments in it, because it was done pre-COVID and it was done,
yes,
kind of stuff, were very everything.
Yes.
Currently for governance, like this is just from my opinion, from governance side, if your organization wrote their governance 2 years ago, it is officially way behind. We scroll back 10 years, you could have gone 5, 8 years, and not had to touch it because not too much was fluid at the time, moving very quickly. We live in a time where things are ever changing, and now we write those. I'm finding when you go back to governance now, you actually, a lot of people are doing a lot of clawback and saying, how do we write this smaller and not so pointed? I'll get off governance for a sec, but yeah.
Something was better than nothing, basically.
Yes,
that's how it kind of worked. And then COVID was like literally basically happening, right? So it was kind of like,
everyone was fine with it.
Right.
But so I think a strat plan would answer a lot of questions that you have. I think it would answer a lot of questions for members. I think it answers a lot of questions for people who sit on the board. I mean, if you asked me from day one, I would have said this was a non-working board in the sense of how much boots on the ground work that you do. Since I've sat here, I know that there's a lot more boots on the ground work that needs to be done from someone who's on the board. So reading those other documents, I would have said it's a board-only setting. That's it, you're probably gonna have 14 meetings a year and you're done.
Right.
That's so, it's unbelievable.
Right.
So, I'm just, like, I think that should be one of our biggest things that we actually
I
want
know,
off.
I think so, because just say for me, volunteering at this point countless hours for many, many years prior to formally joining in this capacity. I was always under the impression this was a working board
Oh, okay, yeah.
with a governance component or a component of both. What that is that 60-40, is it 50-50, is it 90-10? I have no idea. But this is where I think that we're obviously all on the same page because we are totally invested in the downtown. And we have the downtown and the success of the downtown in our heart as we make all of these decisions, right? And I really think that then it comes down to just, it's more so like fences make good neighbors, you know, where it's more so we kind of need to know our lane as we're rolling out events, marketing. Like very much like you mentioned too, Amy, like there's regards to siege days and this kind of stuff. We really need to have a little more guidelines so that we're really staying in our lanes and we all know what all of us are responsible for. So as we have these committees, as we make decisions in committees, those decisions come up here or you know, conversation happens here, it goes back down and it's transferred to the city or wherever. We have to be cohesive, like, and I think that we might have a little bit more lost in translation than we realize, and no one has any idea. There's a misunderstanding,
And we could be thinking the same thing.
100%.
There should be in every business a vision board, right? Of like, what is our vision of this, and are we working towards the same vision? Because sometimes we'll argue about something that's not even part of the vision, right? So I agree, and all these boards should have some say. We have that. Okay, no, that's not where we're going. Right, as we are right forward with that.
Yeah.
So would it be beneficial then if I pull out our vision, mission, and values from the last draft plan, and I'll print on our next agenda, and we can add it to next month's meeting? Does that make sense? Yeah. And maybe we can do a quick survey around the, sorry, beforehand.
I would say that they no to the survey in the sense of no filling out, just the yeas or nays.
I was more so thinking everybody write their 2 sentences. Or 2 words.
Short and sweet.
Or to work, yeah, what you're saying,
5 years ago.
passion, unguided passion usually results in disaster. Passion with vision, you get somewhere real quick, but unguided passion is a mess.
Right, you usually become like this circling, like where you.
But also too,
And you don't listen to what other people have to say.
right, but it also becomes a point where, again, I may be coming to the board thinking this is a working board. So I have whatever in my brain, right? And Byron is coming thinking it's governance. Byron is correct.
Policy board.
Yeah, you are correct. I am also correct. But then we have miscommunication where then all of a sudden, if you have an extraordinarily engaged director, I'll just say Sarah, who is on the ground, calling, organizing, making markets, talking to vendors 50 times a day, doing all this stuff, who's under this impression of here potentially, and is wondering why Byron maybe hasn't joined a committee yet. Byron is not wrong, and Sarah is not wrong. But I'm sure you can appreciate how that could not land very well, but everyone's actually correct. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm just wondering if, like, just working out these details could be a more sinuous board and relationships within board members and everything else.
I just want to know how you wanted to speak. I am going to speak.
There we go. Go for it.
Jump right in. Okay. I think what you're saying is that definitely the personality of thoughts that are coming into the various meetings. I understand what you're saying. I get it 100%. And I can work collectively what the main goal is for prosperity of the downtown.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, I hope it gets that. It's pretty simple. It's not hard, it's elementary, really. Okay. And I know sometimes when I say something, you say something, so on, all around the table, you're looking at different perspectives of why you're having this conversation, why we're having this meeting. Okay. Well, things that are on my mind is like, okay, prosperity gives a couple signs that things move forward. Secondly, huge problem in our region and in our area is the property tax increase. So you got stuff, he's got stuff, you've got some stuff, we've got some things. You know, you're talking about a serious increase in the property tax. Okay, and that's just one element of running a business or a building. And then you've got also your insurance, which is going up. Who's that going to be passed down to? We're going to have tenant situations. These people are not going to afford some situations. You know, so those are big problems for me. When I look at business, let's do business, how we can make more business. So property tax is not an issue, no problem. No, insurance is not a problem, no problem. You know, those are the things that, because if you get 10% this year, what's going to happen next year? You know how much multiples are going forward? This is chaos. And why is that? First time ever in history that I've ever remembered 10% increase. On some conservative 8.6, 8.7, 10%. That's a lot of money. Somebody has to pay that.
Or and I'm going to be dealing with that when you're finished.
Okay, so those are the main concerns for me. How can we get this rectified? How can we get this thing, you know, what solutions do we have, and look for answers to why is that? Why is this happening? What are we dealing with here going forward? This is just one tick going forward, up. It just multiplies. And you can't back up after. Never see a property tax drop. Okay? Okay, once maybe. Because you close half your boat off or something.
That was a fairy tale.
Couple shots of smash. But that's what I mean. Yeah. These are the more important pressing things here right now in front of us that people are not talking about. Why are we talking about it?
Controversial. It's a controversial topic, and most people would.
Controversy is, I got that increase. Why did I get it? What am I gaining by getting that 10%? Tell me what I'm gaining. 10% is a big number.
Out of curiosity, how many years did we not raise it?
Taxes?
Well, they always go up.
Yeah, I'm just.
Property taxes never.
No, like this, what the cities, whatever happened with this 10.5.
It's huge. That's not
Rachel,
good.
do you know, Joe?
I'm going to address the show.
I'm just curious.
So
Should I jump in now with new business or wait, Rachel?
No, go for it.
Related to.
Please indulge me.
just 1 second. Do you want it on record or off?
On record. On record. That's on. For those that aren't here, and especially those that are here, please indulge me for a few moments. We have to understand that this organization, notwithstanding social conscience, we represent businesses, property owners, and tenants. I find it unacceptable that we have not let it be known about our dissatisfaction publicly. As a board member, I'm not allowed to speak publicly. It has to be done through the chair or those that are properly appointed. So my comments are to the board and to the board members. And I am a little dismayed that this organization has not made it known our total dissatisfaction with this property tax increase, which has been unparalleled in a number of years. We're told that it's up approximately 10.5%. I believe that the industrial, commercial, residential is at a different rate, but the figure that I'm hearing is about 10.5%. We have less commercial in this city, less industrial, and businesses leaving this city, notwithstanding we're still pretty healthy. Therefore, it's going to be on the residential component with the largest increases. and they're going to foot more and more of the bill. Let me give you an example of the proposed budget. The figures that I have come from various publications from the city itself. How accurate, proposed, but I got information from the city itself. The proposed budget for the city of St. Catharines for 2023 was $126,938. 22 was 114,691, and 2021 was 111,000. Let's take the 2022 budget. I'm sorry, the 2023. If we take out the transit from last year of 14,044,000, that's 11.06% reduced. However, we've been told that staff in the city, we've done a darn good job of only 2%. You're not 2% because you reduced 11.06% on your transit, which, as we see, will go in the regional budget. So if we take the 11.6%, 0.6% from transit out of this current budget, and the indication is, I think, 2023 is up about 2%. That's 13%. That's 13%. And again, we're here. We have a social conscience. Your business, you're leasing. You own your building. You own your building. You own your building. I've got a few. That's what it's affecting. And I don't think the association has let it be known publicly that we are offended. City staff justify it, quite frankly.
You know, I would say offended, I'd say concerned.
Okay, concerned. Of course, we're okay. Better word, concerned. That I think the city budget is what, about 100 pages, something like that. It's very extensive. I'm not a chartered accountant. I can understand finance, and I don't think anybody here can go through the city budget, totally understand what it's about. Highlights. I won't call it a shill game, but when they appropriate certain things, I've looked at the budget, I don't understand what they're attributing it to, where the revenues are coming from. And I feel that this organization should relate to the city our dissatisfaction on behalf of businesses, property owners, and tenants, that these increases are not acceptable. They will say about 8% is the region. But again, when I look at the city, we've reduced about 11% transit, and we're up 2%. That's not really the true picture. And what's going to happen next year? So they've indicated that they want to hire 24 new employees. I keep hearing and experiencing myself, building permit delays, site planning, dealing with inspections. It's so onerous on us as businesses, property owners, and taxpayers. That is there inefficiencies? Far different for me to say that this is inefficient, that's inefficient. Keep hearing that St. Catharines has one of the lowest salary rates in the region, and we keep losing people to Niagara Falls, well, whatever, and we have this reduction. Is there some inefficiencies that could be corrected at City Hall, that we don't need all of these new employees? And apparently Rachel says 50 positions that have not been filled. I don't know. All I know is the people that sit on this board, the members of this association, are the ones that are paying for it. And publicly, however it's done, I want to know that we are not satisfied, dissatisfied with the increase.
Can I put some math behind the way you do the percentages, the way I'm seeing is if they took 14 million out for transit a year ago, and they're adding 2% a year ago, so they're adding 2.5, 3 million. So that's kind of like a $17 million increase in spending.
Well, I got 11.06, and again, I can't say that my numbers are perfect. And some that fall.
11.
I'm very, well, transit was 11.06%.
Of 120.
Of 126,938,000.
Well, that, to me, that's 14, you know, a hair.
14 million, 11%. Okay, so these increases are greater, these increases are greater to how I see it. And I might.
So they're still spending that. It's come, the 14 million's come out of their budget, 13 or 14 million.
They're spending it.
Out of their budget.
Yep.
Instantly, but they're still spending it.
That's correct.
Plus they're adding on another 2 or 3 million.
About 2%, it's about 2%.
So my mind is that 17 million.
Yeah.
And if they're adding on 10.5% this year, they're adding another 13 million. So I'm adding it in my mind while you're speaking it in percentages and total budget. I'm seeing it as, well, that's spending $30 million more in 2023 than you did 2 years ago.
I didn't do a dollar figure, I just did a percentage.
But it's
I think mine is how I calculate it, how I untrained mind.
Yeah.
Is about 30%.
Yeah, it's a budget drop of 13 or 14 million for transit. Plus an increase, plus a big increase. My mind is 30 million.
And I know the transit's moved over to the region. Is the region putting a levy on the city for transit?
No, it's on your regional tax bill. Regional tax.
Yes, but there are regions that have bills from, there's municipalities, towns or cities that'll get billed from the region also for transit as well.
Oh, everybody.
So my question is it just on our regional taxes that you're seeing that increase?
St. Catherine's tax.
Or yes, but the St. Catherine's tax, is St. Catherine's still paying directly to the region as well for transit?
Correct.
And it's also coming out of our regional.
Correct.
So the real question here is how did transit go up so high?
Well, I don't.
Because if transit moves to the region, the
transit
city shouldn't be paying at all.
I think regional transit somewhere around 50 million. I could stand to be correct. The regional transit for the new regional transit is about $50 million.
Because typically when they do the shift, they take the same budget number that the city had, they'll roll it over to a region, and the region will also put a higher levy out on the regional side.
That's correct.
And they usually get double to 2.5 times the amount of funds for the exact same activity. So you guys are saying transit's removed, but my question is the city still paying the same transit budget? They're just no longer in control.
Well, remember that the city collects property taxes on behalf of the region.
Yeah.
You don't pay the region anything at all. You pay the city of St. Catherine's.
Yes.
And part of that payment that you make, the city of St. Catherine's, goes to the region on behalf of transit.
Yes, but my question is the region still billing the city of St. Catherine's in the same hand?
Oh,
Because that also happens. So what I'm saying is you guys are moving so much from the budget. So that's what you say transit was 12%.
The regional budget, the last region transit budget was over 14 million.
So it's not actually moved from the budget.
Yeah.
It's not removed from the city budget. But the city is still saying, oh, well, at 2%, that disappears, that saving disappears. Because now you're being billed from the region through the city.
I'm just saying that there's some serious concerns going forward. Still, trying to get back on our feet after COVID.
Oh,
a lot of people, especially office space.
Tell me about it.
And
tell me about it.
Tell me this is a very, very concerning thing for the many multiple unit people that have apartments. Okay, you're going to see some situations. Okay, like for example, I guess this, increase who's the cost of you'll personally as much as you possibly can.
And it depends how the lease is written. You're right.
And then therefore, what's happening is you push it onto the tenant, and if the tenant's not making any money, you still. Well, so now you have to sit there and have an eye-to-eye conversation with people that are doing business with you and say, just tell me the truth. Can you handle this or not?
Well, that's not a fair question. No, but is it fair and equitable?
You have to. If you have a relationship with some of these people, you have to say, look, okay, let's split it, let's come to a mutual agreement that's gonna be okay for both of us. You understand? You have to do this kind of thing. You don't just send them paper, say, that's it, they can leave it, that's what happened. So you should have empty signs.
You have to read it. And sometimes these different levels of government forget, whether it's, I won't even say federal, but whether it's the province, the region of Niagara, the city of St. Catharines, there's only one taxpayer. They keep saying, well, the province should be paying for this. St. Catharines should be paying for it. There's one taxpayer. And that's what a lot of these different levels of government forget. Thank you. Said my piece.
Okay. Jen?
I am not saying either way about, I do not know enough about city budgets or the history of our city budgets to comment. Right now, what I'm hearing from on the ground is that we are having systemic failures with respect to getting people permits and like actual completely failing business licenses, permits, in which there's so many. Even some, I had someone say something about a liquor license, which of course is doesn't apply to me. But what I'm saying is that, and I've heard many things about individuals where the staff is gone, there's no staff to replace them, they have a full-time job doing X, and now they have to take on this side gig at the city, and they don't even have a desk, and they're just piling all the paperwork on the corner of their desk. Now, I 100% agree with you, Dave, with respect to efficiencies. Like, there's always potential to be better. You should always be striving to improve, because scaling is a real thing that you are dealing with, whether you're scaling down or scaling up. And COVID has been a really cuckoo bananas time for like everybody. But there's a cascading set of costs, like the permits and the licenses and everything else, that go way beyond 10.5%. If we have businesses right now that have been trying to open for months and are paying money on a lease, that by the time they open, they might not even have money for product to put inside. What's 10.5% if they can get we can get our permits to our businesses? I mean, I'm just having a conversation here, okay? Where I'm talking about, if this is a real issue, and I'm, again, not saying efficiency isn't a part of it. I'm all about being efficient. If we need this injection of cash, okay, we might be solving these issues, okay? Organizational culture, structure, strat plan, that's all different too, okay? Because you can have staff leave for other reasons, because someone is a terrible manager, but which have nothing to do with people being, with respect to attrition to other cities from our staff, where what is that 10.5%? If that business or that building owner now can get those permits within a month to 2 months, and they're not waiting 12 months, and they can sign those people and fill those vacancies, or get those businesses open to create more business, which of course creates a whole nother cascading effect of people loving to come downtown, and then maybe they want to open a business, which, you know, just keeps going and going. But I mean, I'm all for investment into the city. Sometimes investment, especially in you know, in an infusion like this, is extraordinarily hard. Okay, but it's supposed to yield benefits that we all see. Now, in 2 or 3 years, if we're not seeing that, well, of course, we have a whole other set of questions to ask, but it could actually eliminate all of these grassroots issues that we are all dealing with, and the rest of our members are dealing with on a daily basis, that are costing way more money than 10.5%. I'm just throwing it out there for devil's advocate, but that also means that we actually might infuse the cash, get efficiencies, solve some of these grassroots issues and not have a cash increase for more than 3 years, where other cities are having it, or property, or whatever the, you know, the tax increases, whatever it is, but all this stuff. But it's way too soon to judge it, because I'm gonna assume the city's been a little lax, especially maybe pre-COVID and in COVID, to preemptively raise all sorts of things. I have no idea. I don't know what the councilors were doing for these past however many years and what they were voting for. But that's a bigger question, that if councillors have been voting to say no to these things that were extraordinarily necessary, and now we have to have it all in one shot, that's a whole nother problem, because no one should be deflecting that onto anyone else if they're holding their ground saying, hey, we're in a serious dire situation now and our efficiency is in the toilet, we have to do a big jump. These things happen. But, you know, I don't pander to constituents like potentially some councillors do. But at the same time, there could be other things like that.
I'm gonna let Amy and then Dave.
No, I mean, I'm just like Jennifer would say, I really don't have much idea, but the fact is that a lot of these businesses have gone through COVID, and so they're also paying their loans back, plus their property is getting up and everything's getting up, and no matter what, even if you hire a bunch of people, these permits aren't going to happen within whatever. So anyone that's new, it's just you didn't start by so there has to be a moment where you maybe hire some people, let some people actually pay back, get their businesses running, and then kind of making the price go high. But I mean, I think this is going to hurt a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
Jennifer, I take exception to some of what you're saying. Idealistically, you're right if you need it. I take a look at everybody around this table. I don't need a building permit. You don't. There's nobody. You're dealing with maybe 10% of total volume that need to deal with the city. And now all of a sudden, and I don't know the inefficiencies or efficiencies of staff.
Yeah,
can they relocate? I'm just saying that however it's done, and they can throw 100 pages of budget at me, and I probably won't understand most of it. I just say that on behalf of our members, which are businesses, I'm repeating businesses, landlords and tenants, 10.5% is not sustainable. What'll happen in the future? Who knows? We have no idea.
Yeah.
You can't speculate. All I know is that this kind of increase is unacceptable at this time that we're dealing with for the city of St. Catharines. That's what I'm saying.
And so I'm always thinking of the real numbers, and if I think of you know, any nice home in St. Catharines and any nice commercial property in the downtown, let's presume a year before the pandemic, they were both valued the same. So that nice home in the city of St. Catharines has gone up by $400,000 or $500,000 in value. In the last 5 years, we all know that's gone way up. The commercial property that was valued the same has gone up maybe 50,000, maybe 80 or 100,000, 20%. You know, it's gone up a small portion of what the home has gone up. So when the tax bill comes out, I'm just going to, I'd be surprised if it was anything different than what David and I have seen for decades. The homeowner is going to see an increase in tax of $700. You know, the business property owner the commercial property owner is going to see a tax increase of $10,000. So the home has gone like this, commercial property has gone like this, but the tax increase will go like this. And so that's what the gentleman were asking this morning. You know, what do you see as, you know, as a barrier for this roadmap? And I said, if you're wondering why more people don't invest in, you know, their properties, it's, you know, the tax system has never favored commercial properties. It's always favored the homeowner, and really it should, the tax increase should be paralleling, you know, the value of the property being whether it's a home or commercial and industrial already pay at a much higher rate than homeowners, as we all know. And so we've got the reverse thing happening. And so you're going to see the homeowner who has their asset appreciating 400,000 or 500,000, paying $1,000. The commercial property whose asset only went up a small portion is going to be paying $10,000. And so that's what the city could correct that.
Pays about, used to pay about 1.1. I think now it's up to 1.5. Commercial's 3, industrial's 4, or dumped there are. So you can see how much more commercial and industrial, and everything downtown is commercial, but it's not a store, is probably 3 times what the house is. So that inefficiency is multiplied by that much more. And that's why the city generally, we need increase. Notwithstanding, I'd like to see a lot more retail now. That's why we need increased growth in our commercial industrial tax schemes, so that the residential people aren't going to take it on the chin, because more and more the residential component is getting higher. You're going to pay more of a portion on your house than you will, because we're losing commercial industrial.
We do pay a higher tax rate down here because we have so much agricultural land. We have the green belt, which is protected. We have a lot of, Fort George, we have a lot of land that has a very low tax rate. Whereas if you compare us to just say Burlington, where or downtown, where we don't have that density, where maybe we would have a bit of a lower tax rate, but also houses aren't paying really that much of a higher tax rate unless they're making a realized gain by selling the property. Like, you could live in your house for 50 years and you're paying property tax on a house that's worth $100,000. Maybe it got to $180,000. But
well, hold on, you got to reassess it every 4 years.
You do. It goes up.
We're going to think that's
But what happens?
The last one was 2016.
But even the reassessment, you're not. If my house, if I bought my house 50 years ago, or even 30 years ago, and then I sold it for 1.2 million, but I was paying property tax on a house that was worth 200,000. Even with the reassessment, because it can only go up so much.
No, it can go up to market value.
No, it doesn't go up to market value.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, guys, we lost one person, which means we don't have a forum, so I need to motion that we don't have this meeting.